Very good. Thank you. Well, welcome to today's Senate Education Committee. We have 6 bills on the agenda today. 2 items are on consent, SB 52 by Senator Atkins and SB 316 by Senator Rubio. We will begin with a special order to hear SB 138 by Senator Roth. Senator, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Members.
Yeah, please. Absolutely. Thank you.
We'll get organized here. First, let me accept the 5 amendments offered by the committee, and I want to recognize Chanel Matney for a job extraordinarily well done on the analysis. Thank you. This bill is a simple bill, but a very important bill that requires school districts to work with their respective K-12 schools to identify the best method to inform both parents and students on what is a very, very dangerous, if misdiagnosed or undiagnosed, disease, type 1 diabetes. As you may know, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune system disease that attacks the pancreas, preventing it from making insulin. With the lack of insulin, a rise in blood glucose quickly can lead to serious health problems, including death. While we typically do not require school districts to provide this type of information, I believe, and we believe in this case, it's absolutely necessary to do so. And it's because type 1 diabetes can be very, very difficult to detect, particularly in children 5 and under, vulnerable individuals who frequently can't tell us what's wrong. It is imperative that parents and students are aware of the types of symptoms and signs. I have 3 witnesses with me today to provide some brief remarks. Bret Michaels, who I think you just had an opportunity to meet, a Board of Equalization member, and our former colleague, former State Senator Ted Gaines, and my constituent, a very, very passionate type 1 diabetes education advocate, Debbie George. So to lead us off with a personal account, Madam Chair, Mr. Bret Michaels, and for those of you who did not Google him and did not purchase one of the 40+ million albums he's sold, he is a successful vocal artist, entrepreneur, and philanthropist who, many may not know, has devoted a considerable amount of his wealth and his time to educate on the issue of type 1 diabetes. Madam Chair, Mr. Michaels.
Welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here today. I just want to say, as a type 1 diabetic since the age of 6, and now at the age of 56, it is so important, this Senate Bill 138, to pass this through. Education and empowerment is everything, and for me as a child, I was diagnosed at the age of 6 and was extremely, extremely sick, and no one understood what it was because there was no education on it. And so, you know, as a diabetic, your blood sugar level can rise extremely high. Mine got up to almost 800, which was putting me into a ketoacidosis level because of the uneducation on it. And my family, as much as they loved me, thought I had the flu or dehydrated, misdiagnosed by the school nurse, doctors. And again, goes back to when I got to the hospital, I spent almost a month in the hospital. Once they diagnosed and were able to start to correct the high blood sugar level, and it is a very, very deadly disease if left undiagnosed. And I think it is such a strong bill, this bill, to educate and let everyone know. If you have that empowerment and that knowledge that we talk about, and the ability to educate people and them to go in and be able to check their blood sugar, could be as simple as a finger stick, and it shows any kind of elevated level at all. It gives them a chance to immediately be able to prepare themselves to do something about it. And like the shirt says in our campaign, if you know, right, have knowledge is power. Next is being able to survive that impact, because it not just impacts the child with juvenile diabetes, the whole family, everybody is impacted, right? And then all of a sudden, to be able to thrive, you want to live an unbelievably great life. You want to have that chance. And I say, please consider this so that we are not victims, but victors.
Very much, Mr. Michaels.
You're welcome.
Senator Gaines, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and testify for Senator Roth's bill. Thank you for bringing this forward. It's so critical. My story is intertwined with politics. It was back about 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. I was in the Assembly. I ran for the state Senate. My wife ran for the Assembly and won that race and was being sworn in. And we were at the Capitol during that ceremony. My son Teddy and other family members were in Beth's office that she was going to take after being sworn in. And Teddy came running to us and said, I don't know what's wrong with Kelly, but she's like this blue-purple color, and she's collapsed on the desk in the Capitol office. So we went to the nurse's station, and they said, you know, this could be diabetes, but we're not sure. We recommend that she goes to the ER. So we called her doctor. The doctor said, I want to see her first before she goes to ER. We had been to the doctor twice, and this had been misdiagnosed. And I don't blame the doctor. I think it's an education-related issue. But we didn't have her blood checked twice. But in those blood tests, it did not include the glucose level, and that would have told us immediately. So we admitted her in the hospital. She went into ICU for 6 days. Her glucose level was over 800, which is very high. I mean, it should be between 80 and 120 in that range. And so the ability to know what the early signs are, I wish we had known, but the doctor was saying it looks like maybe she had a cold and she's recovering from a cold. And then she said maybe she's depressed because her mom's going to be working in the legislature. And we're going, no, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And so she was constantly thirsty. She was voracious in her appetite. She was wetting her bed at age 8. These things just weren't making any sense. She didn't have the energy to be carried into the doctor later. I helped her come in to meet the doctor the second time. So we're grateful that she's with us and that she's thriving at age 16. She's a junior. She's very strong in math and science and wants to go in the field of medicine. And I'm sure there's a correlation there. So just thankful for Senator Roth and for this bill hopefully moving forward for a simple glucose blood test. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gaines. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. I'm going to read something that I typed up. I hope you don't mind. So my name is Debbie George, and my son Dylan has type 1 diabetes. Dylan was diagnosed at 25 months old, and he is now 17 years old and a junior in high school. Type 1 diabetes is a manageable disease if properly diagnosed in a timely manner. The problem is, as you're hearing, it usually takes 2 or 3 visits to the doctor before a person is properly diagnosed. This is exactly what happened to my precious baby boy. 1 visit to the pediatrician and 2 visits to urgent care before my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. By this time, Dylan had a blood sugar level of 538. He was in diabetic ketoacidosis and had collapsed veins due to dehydration. He was in the hospital for 4 days getting his blood sugar stabilized. I will never forget the nurse telling me, "It's a good thing you got him in. He may not have survived the night." It was the most terrifying, gut-wrenching feeling to think I could have lost my precious son, and all because I, nor 2 of the doctors, knew the symptoms to the onset of type 1 diabetes. Over the years, there have been many advancements in the management of type 1 diabetes, which is wonderful. But sadly, there have been no advancements in education or awareness on this disease. Children and adults are still going undiagnosed, ending up in some cases with life-threatening complications and even dying. This must end. Too many children and adults are dying from a manageable disease. Because people with type 1 diabetes are considered to be a minority of the diabetic population, there is a lack of education and public awareness. We simply do not have the resources needed to get an accurate number of people living with type 1 diabetes in order to prove this minority group is growing and growing fast. This is incredibly frustrating. In fact, one of the big diabetes organizations' websites still states the same statistics they had listed 15 years ago when my son was first diagnosed. It's time the public understands that diabetes is not a single disease and should not be lumped together as such. Knowing the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes can be the difference, literally, between life and death. Educating the public through our schools will raise awareness to the symptoms of type 1 diabetes for parents, guardians, and caregivers, which can help detect an early diagnosis. Raising awareness in school is crucial because type 1 diabetes affects many of our students. If students are aware of the signs and symptoms of type 1 diabetes, such as hyperglycemia, which is a high blood sugar, or hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, and know what to do to help a student who may be in distress, they could potentially save a life. Raising awareness will also bring compassion and understanding of this autoimmune disease, which will help end the stereotypes and bullying that may come to students who are different. As a mother of a son with type 1 diabetes and founder of EASE T1D, Type 1 Diabetes Awareness, I fully support Senate Bill 138. I thank Senator Roth for authoring this life-saving educational bill. And Honorable Connie Leva and Senate Education Committee members, I urge you to vote aye on this measure and help us educate the public on type 1 diabetes. Let's save lives together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. George. Thank you for sharing your story. Do we have others in support?
I'm Chris Tapio. I'm on the board of JDRF's Northern California Inland Chapter and the father of a son with type 1 diabetes and in support.
Thank you. Others in support? Is there anyone in opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Roth, would you like to, excuse me, let's take it back to the committee. Do we have any questions or comments from the committee? Dr. Pan, no. No, I think everyone is pretty much in agreement that this is a great bill. So we're good? Okay. Senator Roth, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Clearly, lack of awareness and education on this issue can cost a life, and it has. And we must get the word out, and we must do it now. Lives depend on it. And colleagues, thank you for your help.
Thank you, Senator Roth. Do we have someone to make a motion for the bill? Thank you, Senator Glazer. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 1, SB 138, the motion is due pass as amended to appropriations. Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang?
Aye.
Chang, aye. Durazo?
Aye.
Durazo, aye. Glazer? Aye. Glazer, aye. McGuire? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye.
6-0, that bill is out. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Roth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, colleagues.
But we will leave it on call.
But I won't crack, and if you push, I will push back. On broken wings, I shall fly, and from these ashes, I shall rise. Unbroken is the fight inside of me. Unspoken is my reason to believe. This is not my last song. I will stand and carry on. I'll face the pain like a moth drawn to the flame. I shall remain